Hello again and welcome back to my shop. Well, it's that time of year again. Whirligig Wars 2014 is in full swing. I've already posted a video response to Laney's Whirligig Wars video, but I wanted to take a little time today and kind of run you guys through the build of my Whirligig. Now, this is not a traditional build video. I'm not going to be grabbing the tools and running boards across the saw. This is more of a kind of a progress video. My thought progress as I was building the Whirligig. So I hope you like it. This is my Whirligig, by the way. It's a magician theme. As the propeller spins, you can see the magician's arm raises and lowers, and a rabbit pops out in and out of the hat. I had a great time making it. I don't care if I win. I don't care if I lose. I feel like I am already a winner, and so is every other person who joined in this competition, because for every Whirligig that is presented, Laney is donating $10 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I can't think of any better reason to make this Whirligig than that. So I already consider myself to be a winner, and I consider every one of you who've produced a video to be winners as well. So with that being said, let me show you how I went about making my magician-themed Whirligig. The board I'm using for the base of my Whirligig is 3/4 of an inch thick. I set my fence exactly 5/16 of an inch from the blade. I ran my board through, cutting a 1/8 inch kerf a little over 1/8 of an inch deep. I purchased a 1/8 inch steel rod from the local big box store for just under $3. When inserted in the groove or the kerf that I cut on my base, I made sure that that rod was just slightly below the surface and able to spin freely in the kerf. I went ahead and made a top for my base using the exact same dimensions of the base, 2 1/4 inches wide by 24 inches long, and I routed a channel up the middle 3/8 of an inch deep by 3/4 of an inch wide, and this forms a nice cap on top of my base, and it still allows plenty of motion in the rod. For the propeller, I decided to go with the Maltese cross style propeller. It involves 2 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch pieces of wood, 8 inches long, with a half lap cut in the middle of each. They'll be glued together, and I'll drill an 1/8 inch hole down the center of these two to accept the shaft of my Whirligig. Now, the basis of the Maltese cross involves some large paddles at the end of each of the 4 corners of the cross. What I'll do is I'll start by cutting a 45-degree down each of the corners about 2 inches deep. I'll cut my paddles out, and then I'll attach them to the cross, and that should give me a pretty good propeller. To cut the 45-degree angles on my propeller cross, I've set my table on my bandsaw to 45 degrees. I'm using this piece of wood as a guide to help me keep feeding the propeller blade squarely into the blade, and I've got a stop block back here to stop me at exactly 2 inches. I now have, I hope you can see those, a 45-degree angle cut in the end of each piece of my propeller. Now what I'm going to do is get out my miter box, and I'm going to cut these 45s off of each of my propeller arms. I'm really happy with how my propeller is turning out. You can see I've got my 45s cut all the way around. I did make one small mistake. Being my first Whirligig, I'm not going to count this against me too much. You'll notice the angle. I should have cut them the other way, because what's going to happen is this is going to rotate counterclockwise. I'm making a little more progress on my Whirligig. I've got my man taped to my board and ready to go. That'll go to the scroll saw. I'll get him cut out. I've got a couple of arms. One of them will move. The other one is stationary. I got to work on that. And I've got my paddles cut out for my propeller. Now you might be saying, wow, that's an odd looking paddle. You know, it's going to be way out there like that. But what I'm going to do is these are going to get painted up like playing cards. Ace of spades, diamonds, hearts, and clubs. because magicians do a lot of card tricks, so I thought I would kind of stick with the theme of a magician and make the paddles shape like and look like playing cards. Using the scroll saw, I got my man cut out, both of his arms cut out. There's his magic wand. You can see he turned out pretty good. I'm happy with how he looks. Also today, I found a couple of silhouettes on the internet of rabbits. I'm not sure which size. I'm leaning toward the little larger size rabbit, but I'm going to get one of these cut out so that I can determine how large of a hat I need to make for this rabbit to pop out of. Well, I finally decided on my rabbit, and I've got him cut out. I think he looks pretty darn good. And what I'm going to do now is I need to make a hat for my rabbit to come out of. So I cut a 2x4 down to 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, and I've routed a groove up the center of the 2x4. And the groove is big enough for the rabbit to slide in. What I'm going to do now is cut this in half, and I'll do like I did for some inside-out turning. I'll tape the two pieces together, and I'll turn myself a hat. And the rabbit, I'll be able to put a piece of wire below him and just push him right out the top of the hat and pull him right back down via the channel. I built this block the other night for my rabbit to slide through, but there's one problem with it. I was going to put it on the lathe and turn it round to produce a top hat for the rabbit to pop out of, but notice how thin the sides are. There's no way I can get this round and get a brim of a hat turned. So I had to scrap this one. And here comes Rabbit's Hat 2.0, or Magician's Hat 2.0. I just took a couple of 2x4s and I jointed the inside of them, one side of the 2x4. I recut my groove. My rabbit, I don't want to use this one because he's got the paper on him still, but this is the thickness of the rabbit. And you can see all the way back and forth, that rabbit can go right down through this slot. This should give me plenty of room to be able to turn a hat and a brim, and then all I'll have to do is cut it to the right height, or I'll actually part it off to the proper height, glue it to my table, and with a small piece of wire, my rabbit should be able to rise out of the hat with the cam, the movement of the cam. I've got my top hat made, got the rabbit sitting in there. You can see he's a little bit tight. I think I still have some tape on him. A little sanding on his sides, and he'll go right in and out of the hat real easily. All I've got to do is paint it up. The hole goes all the way through, so the cam will be below the hat, and there'll be a wire that goes up in there. It pops it into the bottom of the bunny, and he will slide up and down and pop out of the hat. These are the final pieces for my whirligig. I've got the right and left side of the table and the tabletop. Now the table's going to act as a foil. I'll show you how that's going to work. Here's the top of the whirligig. At the far end, the table will be mounted to the sides of the top, and then the top of the table will be glued in place. This will allow the air to flow through and keep the whirligig facing the wind. Also, the table will be where my hat will set for my rabbit to pop out of. I did quite a bit of sanding tonight to get everything nice and smooth, take the rough edges off of it. I've got everything looking pretty good. It's all ready for prime. I also started a little bit of glue up. This is 1/2 of my table where the magic hat will set. And right over here is the center part of my Maltese cross propeller. Another thing that I did to the propeller, it's kind of hard to see probably, but I rounded over the inside edges so that it meets up nicely with the propeller blades. So I'm going to let these things dry overnight, and then I think tomorrow I'll put a coat of white spray paint on them, just kind of as a primer to give me a nice base so that I can start using some acrylic paints and giving it a little bit of life. I shot a quick coat of white spray paint on all the parts. I'm kind of hoping that this will act like a primer because the wood, you know, it's been here for a while. It's pretty dry, and I was afraid it might soak the acrylic paints up and cause me to have to put quite a few coats. So I was hoping by using this spray paint that it might seal some of the pores in the wood and cut down on the number of coats I have to use when I paint the whirligig. I've painted all of my pieces, and I've begun assembly on my magician. I've got this arm glued on solid, and the other arm is able to pivot via a nut and a screw that I ran through his shoulders. I'll show you that once the glue dries on the stationary arm. There's the top, and this is the slot that the propeller will run in. I've got the propeller basically up front, ready to go. It will spin, and I put a small plastic bushing between the propeller and the front of the base for the Whirligig. I went ahead and attached my propeller to my cam, and I've bent a couple of spots in the cam. The black things you see, the black plastic things, are going to be bushings. I then took the base and I cut out sections. This is the front where the magician will stand, and the back piece here will be for the rabbit popping out of the hat. And then I had to make a slight adjustment. I had to cut. I wanted to get 1.5 inch play in the magician's arm for the wand, so I had to cut a section out of my cap. The back, though, worked out just fine. I only need 1 inch movement for the rabbit to pop in and out of the hat, and the cam and propeller spin fine inside of this. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this all assembled so that I can start building up on it and making all the pieces work. I've glued the cap to the base, and it's looking pretty good. You can see when I turn the propeller, the cam movement. I've also got my man attached. So basically, next step for me is to go ahead and start working with the wire on this end, the pivot, to get the arm to go up and down. I'm shooting for 1.5 inch movement between the top and the bottom position of his arm. I've got the Whirligig just about finished. I've got the table and the hat glued on. I've got it wired up, and as the propeller will spin, you can see as the magician's arm goes up, the rabbit pops in and out of the hat. What I need to do now is go ahead and glue the propeller ends on, or the fins on the propeller, and I'm going to make a small wand for the magician's hand that will stick out. It'll be black with a white tip. This is my entry for Whirligig Wars 2014. I did a magician theme, and each time the magician waves his wand, a rabbit will pop out of the hat. Now, sticking with the theme, I built the table, and you can kind of look both sides. I just put some stars and some diamonds and some moons on there, kind of making it look magical. I also went with the ace of spades, clubs, diamonds, and hearts for the fins, just to kind of keep with the theme. I'm real happy with how it turned out. Couple of things I want to point out. The table also acts as a foil. The two sides of the table where the cloth would normally come down keep the Whirligig pointed towards the wind. Magicians are always doing card tricks, and that's why I decided to use the spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds on the fins of my propeller, just to kind of be symbolic of a magician doing a card trick. Well, I hope you enjoyed the build. Like I said, it wasn't traditional, but it was fun. I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining me for this video. I look forward to hearing from you. If you like the video, let me know by giving me a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your comments. I always try to answer all comments. I'll answer any questions you might have. And if you're not a subscriber, I invite you to please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I love new subscribers. I love meeting new people. But until we meet again, thank you for joining me in the shop today. You're always welcome in my shop. I look forward to seeing you soon, and have a great day, guys.